All right, folks, welcome to the Spiritual Formation for the Family podcast. Hello, Raina.
Hello.
I've got, we're kind of doing something a little bit different this week. We are done with our generosity series. I think that went really well. Raina, you were in a class that did that. How'd that go for you guys?
Really
was
good.
it good?
We enjoyed it. We had a lot of fun with it. We got some good stuff out of it. And
Do you feel like your adventure into like your own heart with the generosity is over, or do you feel like this was just kind of like
I think it was a stepping off point.
Yeah, I kind of felt the same thing. I didn't know what to, going into it, I was kind of like, hey, are we going to, is my life going to look completely different in 6 weeks when we're done? But I'm like, there are some things that do look different. But I feel like maybe the next 6 months to a year are going to be where like stuff kind of comes in.
I learned some things that I could do to help with generosity. Like, my answer to a lot of questions was, well, I'm just so busy. I'm busy. So now I've got to look at busyness.
I did the same thing.
Yeah.
That was an interesting. And actually, in our Sunday school class, I would say that probably a lot of people were there. It wasn't so much there was some people, I think, who like the financial teaching of generosity was impactful, but it was hey, you've been given to be a steward with your time.
Yeah.
Better do that well.
Exactly.
So we're gonna do something different this week. As I mentioned, I am here with Raina, our preschool minister. And what we have this week is we're just trying to equip parents for the work of spiritual formation in the home. And, we kind of jumped off the ledge, so to speak, as Raina was just saying, with generosity. And we probably didn't really hone in on what exactly spiritual formation is. And so I want to just very briefly kind of talk about that because Raina's got some good stuff for us today. Spiritual formation is very similar to sanctification. You've been in what book did y'all just read in y'all's home group? Oh my gosh, Whitney's book, Spiritual Disciplines for the Christian Life. Isn't that?
That sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah. So did he use the language of spiritual formation in that book, or
spiritual discipline was his tag?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was lots of all the things we've been talking about with that at church, like the prayer and meditation and gratitude and lots of different things that you can kind of hit on. And
so there's some people that are just like, well, why use that language of spiritual formation? Why not just use the language of sanctification? And I would say there's a good reason for that. Number one, sanctification. There's how it is, Raina. There's so many branches of the church at this point in time. The church was fairly uniform for the first 500-ish years, and then started getting a little bit more ununiformed as theology started to develop and things like that. Then you have the Great Schism, and there's 1025, where the Roman Catholic Church split off from the Eastern Orthodox Church, and then you have the Protestant Reformation, and now I don't know how many denominations there are. Even the non-denominational churches have become like a denomination. It's well, what denomination are you? We're non-denominational. Oh, okay, you're that denomination. So this is the most tacky joke. This is really tacky. But somebody was asking me, or I heard somebody say this the other day, or I seen it the other day, it's a long time ago. It's what's the difference between a Baptist church and a non-denominational church? Is that the non-denominational churches have cooler websites. But we have Al.
we do.
So, Al, well done, sir.
He makes us look good.
You make us look good online. So anyways, the reason that I don't use the term sanctification, spiritual formation is a work of sanctification. But it is different because I think some people can approach sanctification with this idea hey, God's just going to work this thing out. I don't have to be active in the process, and that's just not true. In fact, I think that when you see the New Testament talking about Paul talking about work out your salvation with fear and trembling, he's not talking about work out your justification. He's talking about working out your sanctification. And in working out your sanctification, you got to put some effort into it. You got to do something about it.
Absolutely.
And so spiritual formation is kind of this task of God doing His part, which is immense, and we'll talk more about that on later episodes. But us coming in with some kind of plan, and the plan basically is just hey, what did Jesus do? Well, let's do that thing. What does the Bible teach? Let's do that stuff. And with our effort and God's effort combined, there will be this sanctifying thing that happens in our life. There are plenty of Christians who are walking the earth right now who they are no more sanctified than they were the day they became a Christian, and that is sad. And we got to push against that. We got to push against this idea that like, hey, I've got my fire insurance, so we're good now. So the whole idea of spiritual formation for the family is us coming as a church, coming alongside families and saying, hey, you got to have a plan with this. You got to have intentionality with this. Let us as a church come alongside you and help. But at the end of the day, we're acknowledging, hey, the formation that happens in the home, it is a work that is predominantly on the parents.
Absolutely.
So you have some resources for preschoolers. Now, when we define preschool, define that for us just real quickly, because you and Kim have two different roles. So tell us like what your ministry covers.
So with our church, preschool is birth all the way through kindergarten. So we've got a wide range of ages and stages and lots of growth in there, but babies all the way to beginning school kids.
Yeah. And you've been doing this how long?
2.5 years.
2.5 years. And one of the things so like this podcast, we've been talking about, I don't know if you've been honing it, everybody's listening. Yeah, everybody's listening. So it won't be long before we have lots of sponsors and things like that. But in the meantime, we're trying to stay humble with our great success here. But no, this podcast is primarily for our church. And one of the things, Raina, that I appreciate about what you've done with the preschool ministry, I want to be very clear in our terms here, is I think it's very easy for churches to look at the preschool area as a child care. I know that you had to fight some battles, even with some of like our good volunteers early on, in which it's like, hey, we're going to start doing things in Sunday school that are Bible oriented, and they're like, well, they can't understand that, and you kind of came in like a tornado, and it's like, no, we can make this happen. And what we've seen over the course of the last 2.5 years is that like little kids, 3, 4, 5 years old, they can understand simple concepts about the Bible, about salvation, about the gospel, about spiritual formation. So what are some of the resources? I asked you a while back, like, hey, give me the best resources you've got. If we were going to try to equip parents to do the work of spiritual formation in the home, and they got a preschooler that's 0 through kindergarten, what are some things that you think are like the best resources and the best way to utilize those resources in the home?
We can start with the D6 devotionals.
Yes.
It goes along with our Sunday school curriculum.
Good. Okay, I'm glad you're playing that.
And so there is, for birth to 4 years old, it's called the Cuddle Book. It is a story that goes along with the story we're learning in Sunday school. They're sectioned off into 2-month sections with our curriculum. The first half of the book goes with month 1. The second half goes with month 2. It's got different things in there that there's the story you can read, but then it's interactive, and so it has you look at the pictures with your kids and point things out and really dig into the Bible story, even with those little 1s and 2s when they can just point and talk just little words, and you can read it over and over to your babies.
Let me pause you just for a second. You just mentioned like the 1s and the 2-year-olds. You are our resident professional when it comes to ministering to that age group. What do you say to the skeptic who's like, yeah, they're not even going to get it? What's the point?
Babies learn especially at church. You drop your baby off at church with a loving Sunday school teacher, somebody who's rocking them, singing to them, telling them that Jesus loves them, that's able to embody love for them and tell them that Jesus loves them, and they learn that Jesus is those good things. And so we do that at home too. You can point out, like, at an early age, you start noticing your baby cueing in on things with their eyes, looking at things, and you can tell them, oh, isn't that bird pretty? God made that bird. And just remind them that God has done everything for them. God loves them. God has made things. God made them. You talk about their cute little toes and their chubby little cheeks, and, oh, God made you so perfect. So you just have to learn to wrap things back up.
Yeah.
to point right back to God, because that's where it all came from.
Well, and I love how it's like the simple things. But like the thing that I see so many families making the false assumption, it's like, hey, the simple things won't really add. And no, that is spiritual formation. Spiritual formation is like all these little things that are somewhat unassuming. Every once in a while in our spiritual formation, God's going to like drop a bomb, and there's going to be a big step that we have to take. But really, spiritual formation is a bunch of little steps, and when you put them all together, you're like, okay, like there's something being built here. And just like what did you say? Like there's a pretty bird. God made the bird. Well, what are you telling the kid there? You're telling him like, hey, God made that. God made everything.
Yeah.
Everything that is beautiful. God has made
good things.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so we got the devotional books that go with our curriculum.
When you get into the kindergarten, it gets a little deeper. There's more activities. There's a daily devotion
with the devotional book. Mm-hmm. Okay.
There's a daily devotion to do with your child, so you can read a small Bible verse, talk a little bit. It ties back into the Bible story that at our church everybody's on D6, so it's mom and dad are doing, kids are doing, and those younger kids can sit in on it. Like, they may not get a whole lot from it, but they're going to hear it.
Yeah.
So that kindergarten devotion just goes a little deeper. The next thing I have is a set of books. It's called Baby Believer. They are by Danielle Hitchin and Jessica Blanchard. And these are just little board books. They're perfect for that younger age group. They're educational. There's Let There Be Light, Jesus Heals, The First Bible, there's an ABC one. And so these books, they focus on foundational Christian concepts. There's some about the Trinity, the fruit of the Spirit, the creation story. Some of them teach the ABCs, they teach counting and opposites and other books or other things that you're going to get from other toddler books, but it does it from a Christian perspective, and it builds those foundational truths that God is good and God has done this, and gives you those Bible stories.
I love this. The very first page of this one right here. So this is the Our God book. It just says, like the first page, trust in the Lord forever, for the Lord himself is the rock eternal. Isaiah 26:4. That's cool. I mean, you got like the circle right there. So there is like some learning concepts that are taking place. That's pretty cool. You got the pentagon. Oh, everything is in the shape of the, that is very interesting.
That one is the shape book.
Yeah.
Like I said, colors, ABCs. There's one that's a psalm. Like, they just take the Bible, make it educational as far as everyday uses, circles, squares, ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, and mix in some of those biblical concepts.
So I'm a parent that's like trying for the first time to bring some level of spiritual formation into my home with a preschooler. How much time, like I go through this book with my kid, how much time am I spending a day?
5 minutes.
5 minutes.
I mean, it's really easy. It's just flip through, and you can make it a lot more because it does go over multiple concepts. It goes over the Bible verses. It goes over Bible stories. Some of them are different, but you're getting those shapes. You're getting things. So you can really make it quick, or you can dig in and you can make it a little deeper.
Is there a time of the day that you think, this might be completely arbitrary and opinion-based, but that's okay. Is there a time of the day that you think is the best to try to engage your preschooler?
Before they hit that tired point and are just little monsters.
So, I mean, that's good to know, because I'm thinking like, well, the end of the day, but you're right. Like I've got a little right now, and my two older daughters, they're able to have conversations at nighttime. Allie, she can't.
Yeah.
She's done.
Yeah,
so that's a good idea.
They hit a wall and they become different. So I think in the morning after breakfast, if you have time to do that, it would be a good time.
Yeah.
Before nap time. And I mean, stories are always good at bedtime. You can read this as a bedtime book, but they're not going to get as much out of it because they have hit that wall usually at that point, and they're just a little grouchy, a little distracted.
You. Well, that's good. Okay, that's good to know. So we have our D6 Devos. Okay, and one question I had about those. If you're a parent at Central Baptist Church, how do you get your hands on the D6 devotionals?
You can order those through your Sunday school class. You can get them through me or Kim or Coby. We'll order them for you. They're $30 for an entire year worth.
Oh, man, that is not bad.
Yeah, and we'll cover the shipping. We get them tax-free. Or if you don't want to get in on that, and you can join at any point in the year, but if you don't want to get in on that and you just want to try them out for yourself, you can go on the D6 curriculum website and just look up the devotionals, and you can learn more about them there too. It's got
So
good
$30 for the whole year? I thought it was $30 for 2
no,
months.
$30 for the whole year.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's a great investment.
It really is. And I mean, we've got a lot of homeschooling families in our church right now, and for homeschool, it's a great way to start your school every morning. Just kind of sit down with that
Yeah.
devotional. You get to start with God and, you know, spend some time with Jesus talking to the kids.
Yeah.
It's really, it's a good spot for homeschool people especially.
Okay. So we got the Devos. You can talk to you can talk to Kim, you can talk to me too, Sunday school classes. You have, okay, and remind me the name of this series again?
Baby Believers.
Baby Believers, okay. And that's like a good baby book
It's
too.
a
It's got the
good,
hard,
solid,
you know,
hard book,
it's
yeah.
going to last a while.
Yeah.
All right, what else you got?
All right, the next one I have is actually a book for parents. It is one of my favorites currently, Habits of the Household. It is by Justin Whitmore Early. This is a spiritual formation book for families.
Yeah.
And so it's, 220 pages or so, but it is broken up into 10 different chapters. And so each section is, there's one for waking, one for meal times, discipline, screen time, all the way through bedtime. So it goes through different times of your day. It doesn't have to be read straight through. You can go, man, meal times are really rough in our family. I'm going to turn to page 51 and I'm going to read about what we can do to help focus our meal times more on Christ and more on spiritual formation. And there's great practical ideas that he has tried. It's not just telling you, oh, hey, you should do better at mealtime and this is what or why. It gives you some ideas. It gives you things to try. There's at the end of each chapter, there's like a homework basically where he goes over everything and talks about how they do things and gives you a whole list of things to try on each of these. So this is a wonderful book, and there's actually a Bible study to go with it.
Okay.
Or I guess study book. I don't know that it's
What to do, like,
it is
with small
Bible-based,
groups?
but yeah, to do as a small group.
Okay.
And it is also wonderful. There's videos where he actually speaks and kind of goes over. He does, I think, two chapters at a time or habits
Yeah.
at a time, but
Yeah.
very, very good.
And when we're talking about habits, and you know, I think this is important to like make the distinction. Like a habit is something that hopefully works into like the pattern of our life. Some people call them rhythms.
Yes.
But it's not. They're not necessarily rules. You know, like if you have this, and I think that that's one of the things that's intimidating for parents. Like, oh gosh, if I start down this road, you know, what if we miss? What if we do? And some parents do start down the road and they miss a day, a week. It's like, hey, look. It's okay. You know, sometimes we break our habits. It's not necessarily a healthy thing that we break our habits, but sometimes we break our habit, pick them back up.
Yeah.
You know, there's rules that we live by. Like, what would be a rule versus a habit? Like a rule would be, hey, every day I'm going to engage God in prayer. Like, if I'm going to be a healthy Christian, I have to do that. The habit may be, you know, some specific way that gets worked out. There's going to be days where, like, we're just like, I don't have the time, things are crazy, whatever the case may be, so the habit kind of gets broken. So I think that books like this are fantastic. And you got me on, Justin, early, and I really like where he's headed with some of this stuff. I think that...
He just makes it easy.
Yeah.
He breaks it down and gives you practical things to do, and he talks about rules versus habits, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. He tells some funny stories in the book about doing liturgies with his kid and talking about, you know, can you see my eyes? And his kid pokes him in the eyeball. Like, these are things, he's real with it. And he's like, look, you're going to make these habits, and sometimes they're going to be a disaster too. But
Yeah.
that's okay. You're
Yeah.
teaching them in these habits that God is important and God is a priority.
Yeah, at that conference we were at, what did he say? He said, "A habit's not a habit until it's a habit." I think I'm quoting him fairly good. So he's like, when you try something at first and it sucks, and you're just like, oh, that was a fail. Well, okay, try it again. You know, it's not going to become normal until it's normal.
Yeah. Well, and this book is good for all families. Like, I have teenagers. There are some things in here that if I did them, they would they would just laugh and probably walk away from me. But I think if you start it when they're younger, it works well. But some of these things in here are going to be more focused also for older kids. I don't think Justin has any teenagers right now, but he does address some things to do with teenagers even. So it's a good all-around family book.
So what I have seen is like the Practicing the Way folks, John Mark Comer, all those people that are part of the Circle group, they really do a great job of focusing on the adult formation life. I think that he is probably just an early, and I'm sure that there's some other people out there, but I feel like he might be the leading guy kind of in our culture today as we're talking about things that to practice as a family.
Absolutely.
Really, really good practical stuff. All right, you got anything else for us? So we got 3 resources so far. Anything else?
The Bible app for kids. So screen time is not everybody's favorite, and I get that. But the Bible app for kids, it's by YouVersion, so it's the same as the YouVersion, or the same producers or app producer, I guess. Producers that do the YouVersion app. It's got stories and games, it's got activities, and so you open up the app and you start at creation and you go all the way through the ascension. And it picks major stories, and you
how much money?
It's free.
Completely free.
Completely free.
Yeah.
So the stories, there's songs in there, there's things where you can interact with the pictures, like a Noah's Ark one, you can push the animals on the screen and they make animal noises. And it captures their attention. It goes through the story, and then at the end, it'll actually ask questions, and they earn gems or whatever for completing things.
Yeah.
So they've got scripture memorization in there, and it's just, I've given it to 5-year-olds, I've given it to 2-year-olds, and everybody is entertained, and everybody gets a little something different because a 2-year-old's not going to read the application questions at the end, but a 5-year-old, with a little help, there's a button where you can show them how to get it to read everything on the screen, and they can have it read to them. So it's a safe, solid option for getting Bible stories to your kids when you just need 10 minutes of peace and quiet.
Yeah, good. Okay, cool. What else you got?
I've got Focus on the Family.
Oh, the classic.
You know?
They've been around a while.
They've been here forever, and there's a reason. And they are wonderful. They've got articles for anything you can even imagine, building family relationships, cultivating spiritual habits. They've got a podcast.
Most of their stuff is free, isn't it?
It is mostly free. They do have a library collection of their books that you can purchase.
Yeah.
No offense to Focus on the Family, but buy your books on Amazon because they're way cheaper.
They are way cheaper.
I did price check some of them, and Focus on the Family takes a pretty penny for them. They do reviews for movies, so if you think, man, there's this movie and it's PG and not G, and I don't know if it has something my 3-year-old can't handle, you can look on there. They'll talk to you about that.
Do they still have... This was something when I was growing up, and I remember it was pretty formative for me. It was called Adventures in Odyssey.
Adventures in Odyssey.
Do they still do that?
They do still do that.
Oh my gosh.
And they actually have an Adventures in Odyssey station where you can put that on. We used to put it on for road trips, and the kids would listen to Adventures in Odyssey. I loved it.
I did too.
It was
I was a kid when I was listening to it, but man, that might be something we had to pick back. So there's still they're new episodes?
Making them, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It is crazy. There's so many. And so it's got all kinds of resources like that. It's just a place you can really kind of get lost looking at resources.
Well, very cool.
And they're usually
I haven't even paid attention to Focus on the Family in forever.
Yeah, they have tons of stuff on there.
Well, good deal. All right. What else you got?
That is all of those resources. The last one I have is Moms of Littles. So if you are a mom in our church and you have a little kid, we started as just littles like preschoolers, but we've got homeschool moms coming now.
Yeah.
So we've got we've actually got some moms who have kids in elementary school who are at home on Wednesday mornings and want to come, and they come.
Yeah.
So we've got a good-sized group. We've got childcare from whatever age you're comfortable dropping off. Mm-hmm. So birth all the way through, we've got a group of homeschool kids now that have a class for themselves.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of really good activities that, I've talked to some of the women that attend that, and they're just like, oh man, we really enjoyed this, really enjoyed that, and so it's just a good time to resource with other moms who have littles.
We've had counselors come in and talk about mental health things. We've had different, not podcasts, like video casts that we've watched about mental health things. We've done crafts, and we've done freezer meals when we're going
Nothing
into
can test
school.
your mental health like a
a
newborn.
child,
Yeah.
And
crazy.
so it's support for moms. There's some Bible thrown in there. We do devotionals. We're talking about starting a Bible study with just that group. There's a lot of moms. It's just a lot of support and a lot of fun. We go out. We've done escape games. We do brunch in Tyler with Miss Carolyn, and then we go and do things after that. So it's a lot of time where moms can get away, leave the kids with screened, safe volunteers.
When you have a spiritually healthy adult, the likelihood that there will be a spiritually healthy kid in the same home is amplified.
Absolutely.
It's not guaranteed, but it is amplified. And that's where, like that proverb comes in. It's not a promise, but it is a proverb. It's wisdom. Raise a child in the way they should go. When they get older, they won't depart from it, right? When you have that just healthy adult who feels like they have a community, who feels like they have people who are pouring in to them, they're pouring into them. It just makes everything a whole heck of a lot easier. And that's hard. It's hard to have that kind of community. So, I'm glad that y'all do that. Okay, so we have 5 resources. Let me just recap really quickly as we kind of get ready to close. Number 1, we have the D6.
Yes.
Number 2, we have the Baby Believers series, not just one book, but the Baby Believers series.
There's a whole bunch of them.
3, you've got the Habits of the Household by Justin Earley. And by the way, we're going to put all these in the show notes too. Number 4, you've got the Bible app for kids. And number 5, Focus on the Family. And then kind of the bonus one for the moms in particular, we have the Moms of Littles that meets every other Wednesday. When's our next meeting?
We meet second and fourth Wednesday.
Second and fourth Wednesday.
Sometimes there's a gap in there with a fifth Wednesday. We meet this Wednesday, actually, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. We have coffee and food and fellowship.
Well, that's some good stuff. So if you are interested in trying to create some habits for your house, to take a line from Justin Earley, I think all this is really good stuff, Raina. Thanks for everything that you do.
Absolutely.
Doing a great job.
Thank you.
We'll holler at everybody later.